Hey, it's August episode of Talk About It Tuesday podcast, and we are talking all things inspiring environmental actions by and for the youth. Our guests today are Abhiir Bhalla, youth environmentalist, and Bree Jensen, outreach and partnership officer at Pepperdine University. Whether you are 18 or 80, sit back and get ready to learn about progressive actions and outreach you can take, programs you can enroll in, and more ways to become an environmental leader. Together, we can change the culture of consumption. Without further ado, let's talk about it, people.
Thank you, Ashley. It's wonderful to be here. So I'm Abhiir Bhalla, a 19-year-old youth environmentalist based out of New Delhi in India. And I'm currently going into my third year of college where I'm studying political science and international relations. But that's really the academic and boring side of things, if I may call it that. My true passion and interest lies in environmentalism, which is something which I've pursued over the past 8 years, particularly in the space of air pollution, which is a huge problem here in New Delhi and in India as a whole, in fact, and also the space of waste segregation. So building awareness around the importance of segregating our waste and those related fields. And Yeah, so that's me, and I've worked with a bunch of pretty cool organizations over the past few years. I'm currently heading a few initiatives on my own with some nonprofits which are based out of England and India. And I'm producing my own climate change podcast, which is called Candid Climate Conversations. So yeah, that's me.
Wow, I love that. I love to hear new podcasts coming out. So that was, say one more time, the name that it's coming.
It's Candid Climate Conversations, and you can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, pretty much anywhere. Yeah, yeah.
Candid Climate Conversations. Love that so much. So I wanted to get into the main topic of what this podcast is going to be all about in this episode,
Mm.
particularly, which is youth activism and just inspiring youth in the environmental world. So why is youth activism so important in your eyes?
Well, I think young people truly hold the power to change the world, and that sounds like something incredibly cliched, or something that you'd hear or read about in one of these motivational or inspirational books. But I think that's simply the reality, because the way I look at it, those who are sitting in parliaments around the world today, whether it's a local legislative council, whether it's the Indian Parliament, or whether it's the UN, at any level of legislation, our policymakers, our politicians who are sitting in parliaments are not likely to be there 20 years from now, right? Factually, I mean, that's what the likely scenario is. And furthermore, with climate change being the way it is, I would say we're seeing pretty devastating effects already. I mean, parts of the world are flooding, some are witnessing drought, some are witnessing uncanny, unseasonal, climate phenomena. So the point really is that, scientists say that we'll be seeing the really, really devastating effects of climate change 30 or 40 years from now, with the climate events currently being so devastating. I'm scared I shudder to think what they will be like 30 or 40 years from now. But the point here is that this is a crisis in the making, right? It's something which is happening slow and steady over time. And the problem is that the policymakers who sit in parliaments today will not be there 20 years from now, but they're legislating and leading up to, their decisions are leading up to that time in the future. So that's why it's important for young people. It's all cyclical, you see, because that's why it's important for young people to sort of be there, left, right, and center, at the very minimum, to have a say in these decision making processes, if not being a part of the change themselves. So amplifying youth voices or giving us a platform to youth voices is what really matters. And in countries like India, where the key demographic, unlike a lot of European countries, where in India the key demographic is young people and is likely to remain young people for the next few decades probably to come. Um, we have to sort of who said it, was it Gandhi or someone else who said, be the change you want to see? So that's what we have to do, right? So that's why I think young people really are at the center of all of this. Yeah.
Yeah, and they truly are. And that's why Talk About It Tuesdays wants to give that platform. And it's just important, like you said, we're on a slow growing steep, but right
Hmm.
now it's not slow growing anymore. It's a rapidly changing, and we need help now. And if we don't get it from the people that are in, the positions of power now, um, we need to take action now. And that's
Absolutely.
why youth activism, in my opinion, if I can just say, I believe that it's so important, because when you see a young person crying out for help for something so much bigger than them,
Mhm.
how could you not act on that? That's so much more empowering and inspiring than somebody that has already made the mistakes in their lives. But these are children, youths, even, all the way up to college students, and we're ready to go. um, and we're ready for the change. So yes, be the change. It was Gandhi for sure, I believe. um, so, this being said, I just wanted to talk about some actions that you particularly have done that other youths can do and other activists can do, and just kind of get us activated and ready to go. If you so choose to, give us a little tips, maybe one or two.
Sure. Well, I've worked in the space of air pollution, and I'll have to sort of give a bit of context to answer this. There's, in Delhi, we have the Delhi Metro, which is very similar to the tube or the underground. And with the Delhi Metro, with the population in India being as high as it is, our average footfall at a metro station between 2 or 3 hours was anywhere between 7 to 10,000 people just from one gate, in 3 or 4 hours,
Wow.
at those metro stations, um, especially the really, really crowded ones, the city centers and all of that. So I had done a collaborative, initiative with the Delhi Metro, where I brought together private schools, public schools, and NGO schools, and I crowdsourced, literally speaking, volunteers. So I brought around 500 to 700 volunteers from these different schools, and we did these cleanliness drives, plantation drives, and awareness drives. So flash mobs at these metro stations. So imagine 10,000 people, passing by in those 2 or 3 hours. We would repeat those flash mobs, and they would see it. Now, why this is important is because the tip that I would give out of this whole activity, or rather the challenge which I faced and I overcame, was the fact that the Delhi Metro was, and still is, a public-private partnership. It's a half government initiative. And again, I wonder how tough it would have been if it was entirely a government initiative. But the point here is that when you are working with organizations which are as large as the metro, or whether it's your municipal corporations, local legislative councils, there's a lot of bureaucracy. But beyond a point, you also realize that okay, maybe just segregating my waste isn't enough for me. Yes, it's important, but maybe it's not just, it's not just enough. It's just not enough for me. So in that case, you'll reach out to, these larger organizations which work with the community. And that's where I faced one of the biggest challenges, which is where I wasn't even told subtly. I was told to my face that, hey, what, I was 15 back then. Hey, you're 15 years old. Why should we take you seriously? Why should we sign on this piece of paper on an MOU? And I was in my pants. I was shaking, but I put on a brave face and I told him that, um, you may think I'm just 15 years old, but tell me one thing, do you want grandkids? And I don't know whether, I mean, this is true for everyone. I mean, I just assume a lot of people want grandkids, but in Indian society, especially, there's this whole thing about, everyone wanting grandkids. So I told him, do you want grandkids? And he just shocked because obviously it's not relevant to what we were discussing. And I said, if you want if you want grandkids and if you want them to sort of live a life with as few natural calamities or natural disasters as possible, you're going to let me do this event, and you're not just going to let me do it once, you're going to let me do it again and again. So the message, the reason I'm sharing this example is because it's important to make climate change relevant to your, not just your audience, but your facilitators. And very often you're going to, with climate change being the larger than life issue that it is, or larger than, it's bigger than any one of us or bigger than any one country or at all. So point I'm trying to make is, with it being such a large issue, um, you have to tie it down to your individuals, and you have to tie it down to the people who may be your quote unquote enemies, the people who are slowing you down or the people who are resistant to change. You have to sort of reach out to these government organizations. You have to tell them that this is why you should care. And it has to be unconventional reasons, because sometimes, especially nowadays, it's not enough to say that, this is going to happen or that is going to happen. And the best testimony to that is the fact that, right now, it call it a drastic comparison, but if you look at, terrorist attacks, or if you look at natural calamities, action is immediate. It's in real time. The media, the government agencies all respond immediately, but it's not the same with climate change. And that's because climate change is slow and steady and over time. So that is why we need to make messaging relevant, and that's what would be my top sort of message to young people. Don't necessarily go with the sort of gloom and doom messaging of climate change. Yes, maybe that's the way to convince people at times, but make it specific to them. I very often struggle to get journalists to talk about air pollution around the year. I say, maybe you want to have kids down the line, forget having kids and grandkids. Beyond that, just your lifestyle, you're spending 8 hours out in the field, you know how badly that's impacting your lungs as a journalist. So, make it relevant, make the problem relevant to the individual, and that's how you will get people to rally around you and your cause.
Yeah, that is so inspiring for sure, because sometimes as an activist, you come up to these hurdles and you truly just don't know how to talk to them and how to relate to them, because we already see the issue. They see it, but they don't want to listen or talk about it. And so
Mhm.
that's very good. Make it relevant to the person you're speaking to. And amazing. Thank you so much. This has been such a lovely Talk About It Tuesday with you. Um, we are going to be having this episode come out at the end of August. Very exciting for that. And Abhiir, thank you for joining us. Any last words or inspiring words you'd like to say to us?
I mean, not really. I would just say that it's important to keep the long-term goal in mind, because the space is very often a thankless space. You're not getting money for it. You're not getting, I don't know, not everyone makes it to the news. You don't always get fame, but yet individual action is important. Yet youth-led climate action movements are important, whether it's in a neighborhood or whether it's, inspiring an entire country. Each one is as relevant. So keep at it, and find the uncanny things to motivate yourself, because conventional motivators aren't likely to work for anyone in this space. So yeah, I mean, the simple reality is, if you want a future, this is something you need to care about. So yeah.
We are with Bree Jensen. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to give you the floor to introduce yourself and what it is you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. Like you said, my name's Bree Jensen, and I'm the Outreach and Partnerships Officer at Pepperdine University, specifically in the Graduate School of Education and Psychology. And we actually have a degree, a master's in social entrepreneurship and change within that department that I'm a second year student of as well. So I went back to school to do this program after, do I even dare say how long? Let's see, like over 15 years out since my undergrad. And I'm so happy that I did go back to school and do this program. It's been really transformational. So I am a social entrepreneur, and my social issue is youth well-being. So I come from a background in youth advocacy and really digital well-being as well.
That's beautiful. And that's why you have this episode all about youth activists. So we want to just break down that program that you're involved in. You're involved in it right now, actually. So this is awesome firsthand experience. What is it all about, and how can people get involved and maybe sign up?
Yeah, thanks for asking. What is unique about it is it's housed, like I said, in our School of Education and Psychology. So it's really focused on where you see a lot of social entrepreneur programs. Actually, there aren't a lot, but the ones that you do see often are maybe in the business school. This one does have business classes, if you want to call them those. So you learn those practical tools to start either a nonprofit or a B Corp, or, some kind of social responsibility type position, even maybe go into corporate social responsibility. But what's really unique about it is that it's social entrepreneurship and change. And so we're really talking about that sustainable change. Like, how do you make a difference in the world that can be continued, not just going into an area and bringing a one-time fix, but also enabling a community to start their own businesses or, do things for themselves so that there's long-term changes. And that's why really that education side and the psychology side of like who people are and leadership and, the psychology of why we do the things we do and like who we are. That's why I say it was really transformational, because you do a lot of soul searching in the program. Like from the start, it's honestly like, in a good way, a big counseling session. It's cohort based. So the people that you're working with are like-minded. You do a lot of teamwork. All the people in my cohort, I shout out to cohort 14. We became a family really fast, because you do a lot of work where you're very transparent with yourself and your cohort and your professors like go in hard, to pry it out of you. And I'm just grateful for everyone that's invested in my life, whether it's like a peer in the program or a professor, or we also have mentors. So you get the practical side and you also get that like transformational side so that you can go out and help people in a sustainable way.
Yeah, for sure. And also that little nugget that you gave us about that one little piece that you do in a community and just say goodbye, that's not true social entrepreneurship. We've learned that the little nuggets that you do or the little things and just leaving it doesn't work anymore. We need to, when you plant a tree, for example, and just leave it and don't observe it and see how that grows, who knows if that tree is growing and producing and giving life back. So that's why investing time into the community and learning how to do that and truly do that is very important. So thanks for bringing that up as well. Great point.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to know how this amazing program will inspire youth entrepreneurship and environmental action.
Yeah, I mean, from a youth advocate, that really cares for the next generation. For one thing, it's really inspiring to see young people and their passion for change. But I think that if someone chooses to do a social impact program and actually apply the education to their like willingness to do good, it gives you the tools to kind of go out and, like I said, make sustainable change. So I think, you know, when we talk about these nuggets of like, you know, sending something that doesn't stay, listen, like we're all on different levels of like being able to give. And there may be people that are giving in other areas of their lives. And so like sending something is all that they can do in that time. And that's honorable and amazing. But there are people that are just wired to like want to make this their lives and their careers, and make social good and make environmental good. And so for those people, like young people that are, I mean, there's so many great communities out there, impact communities of young people that inspire me, that are making greater change than a lot of us. And so for those that are doing that, what I would say to them is, you know, consider education, because you can put more tools in your toolbox to equip you to go out and make this your career.
100%. And I can fully back that. I started Recycle to Riches with just off the cuff, not going to school, refusing to go to college because I had a hard time in education. And so I was expecting college to be the same, struggle after struggle. And it's not. It is such a facilitator for more knowledge than I've ever expected. When I don't have classes, I'm off my rocker. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm like, what's going on? The courses keep me dedicated to this mission, because it's more knowledge that you get from your classmates, from your professor, from the school in general, and their connections that they have. If you're going to university, the connections they have. So yes, I am 100% there with you. This is in your wiring. Go to school for it and be ready for this next generation of work and this field that's coming out, because it's so important.
Yeah. And I mean, I love that you said that as like, you know, a young leader. And by the way, kudos to all that you're doing. I think it's so inspiring. And there is something to be said of like, just do it, just get out there and get started, which you did. And I did. You know, I started a social venture about 5 years ago. And it was called Let's Talk Teens. It's not out there anymore, so I'm not promoting it, but it was about teens and digital well-being and all of that. And, you know, I'm grateful. Like it was like the school of hard, like literally I made so many mistakes. Like I cannot even tell you. I learned so much for it. And that's another reason why I started looking for education, because I was like, I want to do this again, but I don't want to fall as hard as I did the first time. And so for, like you said, like if there's people that are out there, get something started, learn from your mistakes, but also if you have the ability to get a formal education, it just empowers you so much more. Like this time around, I have a few ideas to throw out there, and I have a few like side gigs, you know, like all of us entrepreneurs do. And I just feel so much more equipped this time. And you know what it is? It is absolutely the curriculum, but you know what goes next to the curriculum? And I think you'll say a huge yes to this as well, is the community. Like entrepreneurs
100%
tend to run fast alone, but you need people like you. Every single social entrepreneur I talk to now, they're all about like, I could not have done it without a community. And by the way, like I thought I would find my community kind of in the community I had already established, but I think social entrepreneurs are like, maybe think a little bit differently, and we do things a little differently. And so you have to find people that are like-minded, that are running fast in the same direction that you are, so you can support them and they can support you. And you absolutely, I mean, just on a practical level, you need funding. You need people that believe in what you're doing. So because like there's low valleys, right? You need people that say, no, this is a good idea. And by the way, you need people to tell you it's a bad idea too. And like don't do that.
That is more important sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's what you get, like, especially at Pepperdine, and I'm saying this authentically. I obviously represent Pepperdine, but I've been in a lot of communities, and Pepperdine is so unique, and specifically the Graduate School of Education Psychology, where I have never felt so at peace in trusting the people that are around me, because I know that they have my best interest. And I know that I can go to, like, whether it's the chair of a program or a cohort member, and they're going to tell me the truth, and they're going to do it out of, like, support. And so I think, and that's a lifetime membership. Like, by becoming an alum in a few months, like, not just staff, but like when I graduate, I get a lifetime membership to this powerhouse community. And as a social entrepreneur, you may think that you could do it alone, but like, just from experience and from people I talk to, I don't suggest doing it alone.
And I 100% back that. Don't do it alone.
Yeah.
I'm still in the process of finding my team and making sure that they're the right people, but it is a struggle when you're wearing all the hats, and not even just all alone like that, but not having that network, like you're saying, and that backing and support.
Yes.
So yeah, and any university that is involved in sustainability and you want to get involved with, they will support you and be with you. Pepperdine has this program, which is fantastic, but there's other UCs that you can go to, there's other colleges, and there's support out there. I am getting paid right now to actually go to my community college if you want to go that route. So there's ways that you can get education without having to not fund it yourself. It's frustrating when that looms over you, and I understand that struggle. So if you guys have any questions about funding for college, funding for school, anything like that, feel free to reach out to Recycle to Riches and let us know, and we will send information, because I know the struggle is real out there. And in education, and the community of education is very important. So I think that's it. I think we got what we need. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a fantastic chat and talk. I hope you can join us again sometime, and you get to listen to the episode when it comes out.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That was fun chatting. I always love talking social impact, and, like, what I would say about education and funding is to look at it as an investment in yourself and the community that you want to reach in the future. So I love that you have resources for that. And it's great to have a conversation. If I could just say, I'll send you my link to have a one-on-one conversation with anyone that would like to talk about the program.
Yes.
And my experiences, and they don't have to commit to anything. If they're just curious about possibly joining at some point, then they can schedule a one-on-one with me, and I'd love to connect.
Oh my gosh, Bree, that is fantastic. We are going to put that link in the bottom below in the comments on YouTube.
Great.
And on our podcast recap. Thank you so much for joining us and all of this fantastic information.
Absolutely.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the August episode on all things environmental actions by and for youth. We are so happy you listened and watched on our YouTube channel. Until next time, let's never stop talking about it, people.